What's going on YouTube? It's Tyler from Mission VR, where it's my mission to bring you guys good quality VR content. So today we're going to be doing a highly requested video, and that is going to be comparing 4 of the major virtual reality shooters, and these are pretty much the big names on the market when it comes to VR shooters, and that is Onward versus Pavlov versus Contractors versus Zero Caliber. And we're going to be talking about really what is in these games and doing a direct comparison. Now, I do not think that any of these games is really better than the next game. I think that they each have their place in the shooter market, and we're going to be going over that stuff. And I'm going to lay the groundwork and be talking about, content levels in these games, graphics and sound, type of player you are that if you're going to look to buy this game, and what the community has to offer in these games. These are the groundworks that we're going to be working with in this game, and like I said, I do not believe that any of these games is really better than the next. I just think that there are different attributes and different qualities to each of these games. So without further ado, let's hop on into the content section. Okay, so first up with our content section here, we're going to be really kind of focusing on what is actually in these games. And per se, yes, there's some more content in certain games than there is in others, but ultimately they all have a pretty decent amount of things to do. So the most amount of content you're going to get out of any of these shooters is going to be with Pavlov, and that's just because, their community is so active and is so vibrant that you're always going to be able to find games, and those games can be custom games, similar to what Halo 3 had to offer, and you actually can play some of those Halo 3 game modes on Halo 3 maps, which is pretty cool. So that's definitely a big plus factor of Pavlov, is that you're definitely going to be able to find custom games, any of the regular games. You can play against bots if you're bored and just looking to kill some people, and then you also have the zombies game mode. So there's definitely a lot to do in Pavlov, but that doesn't mean that there's not a lot to do in these other games, because realistically the player base in Onward is just as active, and you're going to be able to find plenty of games in Onward to play if you're more into the mil sim section. And I think that playing Onward, having the co-op mode is a big benefit, because if you're not looking to necessarily be super competitive and be playing against other players that are relatively good at a game, and you're playing against AI, that definitely offer a challenge, but it's more of the teamwork side of things. And I think that that's where Onward's content level shines, is on the co-op side and working as a team to complete objectives. So when it comes to Contractors content, really there isn't a lot in the base game when it comes to maps, but the community has modded maps now, which is really a nice feature to this game, because that adds a ton of replay value. And this game really is the Call of Duty of VR shooters. It's set up very similar to Call of Duty, and the game modes are basically what you're going to be getting in a Call of Duty game. So Contractors has a lot to offer there, especially if you're that run and gun kind of objective-based game modes that you're looking for in Call of Duty. Now, Zero Caliber has probably the least amount of content in this video, and that is as of right now, June 2020. I know they're adding multiplayer to the game, so that's going to definitely bolster that game up, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that game stacks up to the other 3 games on this list once it has multiplayer, because really, Contractors does a great job at taking that Call of Duty market, and really that's what Zero Caliber is going to be aimed at, is kind of the Call of Duty faster paced gunplay, rather than the slower gunplay that is Onward. And Pavlov is really more of the Counter-Strike-esque type of game. So it's going to be interesting to see how Zero Caliber's multiplayer stacks up, but as of right now, Zero Caliber only has a campaign, which is pretty cool because it's the only game on this list that has a campaign, but it doesn't have any really multiplayer other than the co-op you can do through the levels in the campaign, which is fun, but it's a little bit buggy. But ultimately, if you're looking for the Call of Duty-esque experience, you're going to probably want to go towards Contractors until Zero Caliber releases its multiplayer and planned future content. And then if you're looking for more of the mil sim, you're going to be going towards Onward. And if you're looking for more of the Counter-Strike experience, you're going to be doing Pavlov. Really, you can't go wrong with any of these games when it comes to their content level. There's a ton of guns in all of them. You can customize your guns in every single one of these games, and you're definitely going to have a lot of fun picking out which guns you like to play with and which guns feel best in your hands. And I will say that in this particular market, these games do an amazing job of this, and every gun does have a unique feel to it in almost every game I've played. And there's some games that I really like a gun in. Like Onward, I'm really a fan of the M16A4, but I played Contractors, and the M16A4 doesn't really speak to me as much. I like to use a carbine weapon, and it's definitely a really high replay value thing, you know, when you're talking about different gunplay and, you know, feeling out the way the weapons actually handle. Now, when it comes to the graphical design of these games, really all four of them have pretty good graphics, and you're not going to really notice any major immersion-breaking graphical disparities between any of the four. Now, each one of them does have their unique art style, and you're going to get certain elements with certain games that are different. And that, you know, being Onward has, you know, weather effects sometimes that kick in, and, you know, night vision, and that stuff is really cool when you're playing on night maps and you get a sandstorm that blows in, you can't see, you know, down the hallway. It changes your tactics to how you're playing, and I really like that. But I think out of the four shooters, Zero Caliber has probably the best graphics overall. You know, the lighting and the way the guns look just is fantastic, and it really deserves a round of applause. And they just updated a lot of that stuff, so it's probably the prettiest of the VR shooters. But, you know, these other shooters are nothing to scoff at. You know, Contractors definitely has that Call of Duty feel, and the maps laid out very similar to the Call of Duty art style. And Pavlov, I do feel, is the weakest out of the four when it comes to graphics, but ultimately you're not going to be breaking immersion whenever playing any of these games. You're going to feel like you're in the world, and some of the community-made maps in Pavlov actually are really good. So it's just kind of a pick your poison type of thing, and really you're not going to miss a beat when it comes to graphics, and I wouldn't buy any of these games based on graphics anyways. Now, when it comes to sound design, I do feel that Onward still has probably the best sound design, but it's not by much, and it's just because that's my preference, you know, because Onward has such loud gun sounds, and I really like to feel like I'm immersed in the world whenever I'm playing. So the loud gun sounds, you know, kind of speak to me as being, you know, what it would be like to actually be in their shoes. And Onward is the most realistic out of these games, so I guess it fits the bill. But I actually do really enjoy Contractors' sound design, especially the way the guns feel and sound whenever you shoot them. I think that it's actually really well done, and quite frankly, I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. And I praise Zero Caliber's sound design, and I still do. I think it's a good sound design, but I was really impressed by Contractor's overall sound design, and I think that it's probably second on my list. And I do have to say that if there's one area that Pavlov can improve on in the future, it's absolutely the sound design and the weapon feel, because the sound design in Pavlov just isn't that great, and it doesn't feel like you're really having that weapon that just, you know, hits hard, and when you're shooting it, you feel like you have this big heavy rifle in your hand, and, you know, things along the lines of that. So I just really don't feel that the sound design in Pavlov is great. Now, is it immersion breaking? Absolutely not. You're still going to feel like you're immersed in the game. Now, I do think the sound design when you actually pack a punch a weapon in the zombies mode for the Call of Duty Zombies maps is pretty solid, but that's because the sound was, you know, from another game. So I think Pavlov has the weakest sound design, but overall, you know, it's nothing to scoff at, and I think all these games have pretty good sound design. So now we're going to be getting into the stuff that's really going to help you determine whether you should buy one of these games or not. And first up, we're going to be talking about the community in each of these games. Without a doubt, the strongest community alive is Pavlov. It has a ton of players playing it. You're never going to have a hard time finding a game, and you're more than likely going to be able to find the type of game mode you're looking to play. You know, if that's a Halo Infection game mode, you're going to be able to find it. If you're looking to play Call of Duty Zombies, you're probably going to be able to find a game. If you're looking to just play Team Deathmatch or gun game, you're more than likely going to have no problem finding one of these games. And I think that's a really strong selling point for Pavlov, is because a lot of people, you know, want to experience what the game has to offer in its entirety. And I know that some of these other games in this list, you know, may not offer 100% that, but honestly, when it comes to the communities, all these games have a pretty active community, and I can't complain. I've never had an issue finding a game in Onward either. I've always been able to find a nice game in Onward, especially if I'm looking to play co-op in particular, which I do play a lot of, and I haven't been able to really struggle to find any online, you know, uplink or, you know, search and destroy-esque game mode in Onward as well. So I think that this is an area that both of these games shine in, and Contractors so far has been pretty active. I've been able to find pretty full games, and, you know, of course I was playing some of those games pretty late at night as well. So I think that the community during prime hours is definitely very active, and you're going to be able to find the game mode you're looking for, whether that's domination or team deathmatch. So now, Zero Caliber, obviously, like I said, is a single player game, so there really isn't much of a community that surrounds it right now. There is a co-op game mode, but really not a ton of people are playing it unless you have a friend to play with. So for the most part, you're not really worried about the community when it comes to Zero Caliber. Now, when they add the PvP multiplayer into the game, it'll be interesting to see how it stacks up to the other games. So we will definitely keep an eye on that and wait until that day arrives. And finally, we are going to be talking about what type of player should be buying which type of game. And really, this is actually a pretty simple question to answer. If you are like military sims, you like the strategy, you like a little bit slower paced gameplay, you're going to be looking to play Onward. It's an absolutely amazing game for that atmosphere. If you're looking to casually just play through a campaign and, have some replay value in some of the levels and, just like to customize your guns as much as possible, and then, maybe hop into the PvP whenever it's added, Zero Caliber is your game. Now, if you're definitely looking for the more competitive shooter experience and you want to you've played a lot of Call of Duty in your life, Contractors is your go-to. It's going to be very similar to that, and it's definitely a little bit more competitive than the other games. Now, if you're looking for the Counter-Strike experience, a little bit more arcadey, but has a lot of content to offer, Pavlov is your go-to, and you should absolutely buy it. So this is going to be a little bit of a bonus section here, and that is going to be one thing I really love from each one of these games and where I feel the game can improve on the most. So first up is Zero Caliber, and one thing I absolutely love on this game is the gun physics. It's something I really wish the other three games would add on this list because the gun physics just have a unique feel to them. Whenever you're pushing around a corner, you have to make sure your gun's not clipping through the wall, and I think that this definitely adds to the immersion factor and really gives you that you're in the world type feel. And it quite frankly is very satisfying to, throw your gun up on the top of a sandbag and pivot it around as you're shooting people and it's not clipping through the sandbag. So I really enjoy that. Now, where I feel that Zero Caliber can improve upon vastly is the voice acting on some of the campaign levels is really, really bad. And I mean, it is really, really bad. And on top of that, the friendly AI is also pretty bad, and I don't know why they just run out and get shot at. The enemy AI is not that bad, so I'm not sure why the friendly AI is as bad as it is. Now, when it comes to Onward, my biggest pro of this game is the strategy involved to beating certain rounds or levels, and I really love that. It creates so much replay value to plan a way to beat a certain map on the hardest difficulty if you're playing in the co-op mode, or beat a certain map, if you got a team that's really, winning a lot of rounds and you're trying to find a strategy that's going to beat them. Now, where I feel that Onward can improve on vastly is the reloading. The reloading of each weapon in this game definitely is not as strong as the other games, and sometimes, magazines will clip through the gun and it'll, be a little janky and you kind of have to jiggle it to get it in there, compared to some of the other games where it's a lot smoother. I think that Onward can definitely improve on its reloading mechanics. Now, when it comes to Contractors, this is actually quite the opposite. Contractors reloading is fantastic. It's the best I've ever played in any of the VR shooters. It feels so satisfying to drop a mag and put a new mag in. I really like this feature a lot, and I think that they've done a great job with it. Now, Contractors' biggest con is absolutely the quietness that you get when you're playing around. And I think that they really, really need to desperately improve upon this. It just feels so empty, especially if you're in a game mode or a game that, the team is not communicating and there isn't a lot of voice, coming from your own teammates, communicating strategies to win the round. And I just think that this is really, really a place that it needs to improve upon. When you're playing Call of Duty and you're playing Domination, you get the, AI voiceover that's going to be coming in and saying, hey, we just lost an objective, or hey, we got to pick it up, we're losing this round, stuff like that. The game just has, as of right now, a little sound notification to let you know that you have lost an objective or you've lost a round. I think that this is an area that really needs to be improved upon in this game. Now, when it comes to Pavlov, the absolute biggest pro in this game is the community. You're going to be able to find anything you're looking to do, anything you want to do, and I think that it absolutely is a very big selling point to Pavlov. Now, I do think that Pavlov's weakest attribute is its gunplay. The gunplay is not as good as the other games, and it's noticeably not as good whenever you're comparing it side by side. Is it immersion breaking? Absolutely not, but it's definitely more arcadey, and the guns just don't feel that satisfying to use in Pavlov. But again, that comes with a trade-off of the community, and I'm hoping it's something that they improve upon in the future. Well, guys, that's it for this video. I know it was a little bit of a longer one, but we really wanted to focus on getting through this and talking about the strengths and weaknesses to each of these games. Now, I do feel that none of these games is better than the next. I think that they all do a really amazing job, and each one of them has their unique spot in the VR shooter market. It definitely helps to know which type of player you are, and what you're actually looking to expect getting out of a game whenever you purchase it, and that's kind of what this video is done, and what I'm hoping it helps you guys decide. So if you guys really like this type of content, please drop a like on this video and subscribe to my channel, as I'm bringing you a ton of VR content. I've got game reviews out there, I've got different VR related content out there, and I'm doing a special series on my channel, trailers that are going to be dedicated to certain games, just to kind of get the community hyped about a certain game. So drop a like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time.